in danger for the so-called purpose of being kind.
Again, what you're doing here is you're using these very obtuse type comments to try and paint trans people as some sort of predators and going
I'm
into
trying to
changing
say
rooms.
that there's a reason that we have single-sex spaces, and if girls are socially conditioned not to uphold those single-sex spaces, we are going to have a huge safeguarding challenge.
So it's important that the education we're providing around gender identity, even non-trans people, about understanding your sense of self, I think is really important. I think schools today are doing a far better job than they did when I was younger in the 60s. So I'm not an education profession specialist in this area. I would advocate that education needs to represent the real world, and trans people are in the real world. If it means making girls more aware of their own sense of self, empowering them, giving them, working with them to
Helen,
so
how is this empowering girls?
Say again?
I just said, moving on to Helen, how is this empowering girls?
This language of empowerment is not the right starting point when you're talking with children. Adults and children have totally different duties and responsibilities and rights and needs. In schools, it's up to the grown-ups to set rules that keep everybody safe. It's not possible to keep everybody safe if you pretend that some boys can be girls and some girls can be boys. That doesn't mean being mean or unkind.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out why a trans Muslim drag queen is helping asylum seekers prove that they're gay. It's not just because they want to get booked by the BBC. Don't worry, we don't have any video for that story. Also find out how our judiciary has been captured by activists. And is Trump abandoning Ukraine? And will it be the kick up the bottom Europe needs to stop persecuting its own citizens, close its borders, and grow a pair? And just as America urges us to return to the values of freedom, Labour remove freedom. I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight's comedians are Cressida Wetton and Nick Dixon. There they are. This is Headliners. And let's kick off with a quick look at tomorrow's front pages. The Guardian leads with Starmer seeks to calm Europe's row with Trump. The Telegraph has Prime Minister to defy Trump with new aid for Ukraine. Sounds slightly different from the Guardian headline. The Times has Apple in UK privacy row. So more front pages in a moment, but first, Cressida, what do you make of this on the front page of the Guardian, saying that Starmer's going to calm the row with Trump? I can imagine him in the car park of a Weatherspoons defusing a situation.
Exactly. He's here, finally. Everyone can relax. Starmer's going to sort it all out. He's going to calm everything down.
Calm down. This is far-right thuggery.
He's decided he's best friends with Macron and Zelensky, and he's decided that this is the idea that it's Putin and Trump against these guys. It's ridiculous, isn't it? As if he's as powerful as this headline is making out, like he's going to walk in and save the day. I don't think that's the case.
I guess, though, historically, Nick, Britain has been the sort of the linchpin, the conduit between America and Europe.
Yeah, but that's when we were sort of did stuff and were respected in the world. We had ships and things and some money. But no, I know what you mean. Yes, Trump has said that he's a very nice guy, Starmer. So who says Trump can't do diplomacy? Great guy, Fred. He says Macron's a friend.
Sounds like another lie.
Yeah, I know. He said, well, you know what it is? Starmer was shrewd enough. The one good thing he did was he called Trump after he was shot. It's like, so you've been shot, how are you? And that kind of thing, that will go a huge distance with Trump. He'll be like, great guy, cares about my ear. You know, that will last forever. But he said he's a very nice guy, but they haven't done anything. He says, Macron's a friend of mine. I've met with the Prime Minister. He's a very nice guy, but they've done nothing. And that's the problem. And I guess there's another story in a minute, but Starmer's position is so at odds with Trump, but he's sort of positioned himself as a kind of a peacemaker. because we have to get on with Europe, as I said the other night. We have to somehow get on with Europe and America.
Yeah.
And especially in the Trump era, where they're so at odds, that's going to be quite difficult. But Starmer is going to be the master of diplomacy.
Well, yeah, because Trump does seem to have, gone out. He's making quite different noises to what Vance and Pete Hegseth and other people who've been over in Europe and spoken about Ukraine, who've said that essentially American aid is going to continue in some fashion, and military support, and there's going to be America's not pulling out of NATO. But then Trump's like, I'm doing all of that, and I'm not sure if it's just playmaking before he strikes a deal, to lure Putin into thinking he's in a better position than he is.
Or is it just narcissism? I don't know if you heard any of the Fox interview. It was mostly him saying, me, it wouldn't have happened if it was for me.
Yeah.
Which might be true. And Brian Kilmeade, the guy interviewing him, he was trying to say, yes, but it is Putin's fault, isn't it, Mr. President? And Trump just kept talking over him and kind of wouldn't actually acknowledge that.
Well, my theory on that is, and I've developed this theory having seen that Trump has said that Putin hates Zelensky with a tremendous passion. So my theory is Trump, to sort of lure Putin in, keeps saying anti-Zelensky stuff, and then Putin will think they're friends. He's like, oh, he hates Zelensky as much as me. And then Trump does the switcheroo on him out of the deal. Suddenly he's taken away most of Russia, and he hasn't noticed. This is my theory.
Well, yeah, because he has spoken, or American diplomats have spoken about taking the $300 billion of Russian assets that have been seized overseas, which haven't been touched, and using that as a sort of lever and redistributing them to rebuild Ukraine, and also rebuild within the territories that Russia's taken.
Yeah, but haven't they also simultaneously talked about taking 50% of Ukraine's minerals?
Yeah.
The Trump wants this ludicrous deal. It was like, we'll own all your stuff.
But in the art of the deal, he speaks about going in with the most ridiculous. You ask for like 50 trillion, and then when you just want 10 quid. But because you've asked for 50 trillion, the guy will be like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm giving you 20 quid, and think that he's got an amazing deal, when in fact, you would have started on 20 quid.
Do you think it's all about the minerals then, and not about stopping the killing of innocent young men?
Oh, well, some of it's about the minerals, but the mineral, yeah, like Leo says, that's just an initial ridiculous offer.
He was trying to play it down again in the Fox interview. He was like, oh, maybe they have minerals, maybe they don't. Like, he didn't know what's over there.
I mean, in fairness, he doesn't sound like he's... I mean, although Trump, I appreciate he's got a wide portfolio. He's got, the whole United States, and some would say the entire world on his plate. But he was unaware that 700,000 Ukrainian children have been trafficked to Russia to be, exploited, and a lot of them will have ended up in paedophile rings and things like that, which the Republicans have traditionally, particularly the MAGA Republicans, have been against child trafficking.
Yeah, was he unaware, or is that part of his flatter Putin strategy? At the moment, you notice he's admitting barely that Putin's basically never done anything wrong. They even got him to say, but you do accept he started the war, and now he's kind of a quasi-acceptor. He's like, yeah, I guess he started it, but he's a great guy. That seems to be his tactic.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. It'll also be interesting to see, because they're sort of pushing the idea that Zelensky is unelected, even though he was elected, but because there's a war on, he delayed elections because there's martial law. But the likely successor to Zelensky would be Zelensky, who's been sort of exiled to the UK. I think he's the ambassador to the UK at the moment, who was the head of the military and would be an incredibly robust president. I mean, if Zelensky's a sticking pin, then Zelensky would certainly. He's loved by the army. He's an incredible military leader, much better than Syrskyi, who's leading the military right now.
With a view to carrying on the war, or still ending it, but Machiavellian come in and go, yeah, I'm the guy who's here now. You don't hate me because I'm the new guy. Yeah. You don't mean carry on killing each other?
Yeah, no, I think, under Zelensky, I think they would have had much more military success. I think Syrskyi is much more cavalier with the lives of his troops.
Let's face it, you can't go much lower than a comedian.
Yeah, one of my friends said, because Trump described Zelensky as a mediocre comedian who tried his best but failed. And that's like what Don Ward would say to you after your set at the Comedy Store. You know what I mean? Moving on, we've got the Telegraph, Nick, with the Ukraine story and some other stories.
Yeah, PM to defy Trump with new aid for Ukraine. And this mad idea from Starmer. And this is what I meant to say earlier. I don't understand how he's going to be diplomatic with Trump and get on with Trump, meanwhile saying he's going to continue to aid Ukraine on his own. This is what he's talking about. He's talking about announcing further sanctions on Russia and further aid for Ukraine, even though the whole idea is the war is winding down. So I'm very sceptical about how he's going to do this. He's also going to announce finally that he'll be doing this its 2.5% defence budget by 2030. Lord Dannett has already said 3.5 is what we need. And I'm sceptical about all of this. How are we going to carry on aiding Ukraine without the US backing? It's completely absurd. Peter Hegseth said he won't back the troops. US won't back the troops with Article 5 if they're, there on the border or whatever it is. So that would make them sitting ducks.
But that's NATO.
We don't have the number. Yeah, but how can we do it without being backed by NATO?
Well, we've been doing it without NATO already. I mean, like, Ukraine's not in NATO. So the the NATO states, individual states have been backing.
But if the US are backing out on March 1st and giving no further aid to Ukraine, and NATO are not backing us either, I'm saying, how could it be done? But I don't, maybe, but you know more about this stuff.
Well, this could be the moment. I mean, shares in European defence stocks have been absolutely, like BAE Systems, people like that have been absolutely surging, while American defence stocks have been plummeting. And I mean, admittedly, America's been way more robust and way more forthcoming with, military equipment and military aid to Ukraine than Europe has. And, Trump's quite right to say Europe hasn't been pulling its weight. But I think, this might be the kick up the bottom that Europe needs to actually start pulling its weight.
Well, it's going to have a lot of weight to pull, isn't it? Because currently, is it 40% of 25 to 35-year-old people say they wouldn't fight for their country?
Yeah.
So even...
But we're not going to send them. We're not going to send the weakest generation in history. We'll send the equipment that Ukraine needs to.
So we'll just carry on not right. Okay.
I mean, Russia isn't far away. For all this talk that Russia's incredibly strong, and they've burned through all their infantry vehicles. They burned through their tanks. Yeah, but they're using donkeys at the front line. They're using dirt bikes. They're using milk floats to go into battle. Golf carts. Anything that looks rubbish. Everything I see getting blown up looks like I wouldn't drive it on a stag do.
Leo, you say it'll just be the equipment, but Starmer has pledged to, if necessary, he said he would consider sending British troops. But the problem is we don't have enough troops. I mean, Lord Dannett's already said this. It would take about 40,000 troops over 6 months.
Yeah.
And we have about 75,000 total. Apparently, last time we did this, you'll like this kind of thing, was the British Army of the Rhine, when we sent in 80,000 troops. But that was at a time when we had 350,000 total. Yeah. So how can we do this?
And of course, with Starmer trying to jail as many British troops as he can, like Jamie Michael, who's a former Royal Marine, went and risked his life for this country in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and then the establishment, the British state, try and lock him up because he posted a completely reasonable video saying he didn't think that his children were safe and he didn't want mass immigration, and in the wake of the Southport riots. And I'm absolutely disgusted that that a British veteran would be treated like that. Even if he'd said something wrong, I think give people a bit of leeway, but he hadn't at all. So yeah, we'll see if there's any actual British troops left that haven't been jailed by Starmer by the time this happens. There's also this story here about hospitals hiring trans doctors won't be able to see their case records because they were committed by a different person who's a man.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, do you want equal treatment or special treatment? Special, please. Yeah. It's just so unbelievable. We always talk about loopholes. And if there's an opportunity to not be the person you were when you did something wrong, that's where the wrong ones will go. This just beggars belief.
Yeah, doesn't it just create an incentive? So if you're guilty of any sort of medical malpractice or whatever, you can just transition, start calling yourself Susan.
It's now an option,
and then,
isn't it?
and then that's all expunged from your record.
Exactly. And we covered this last night, but the update that I can see here is that a source close to Wes Streeting said the situation was crazy and creating far too much risk for patients. So Streeting, he's been a sort of late convert, but apparently it sounds like he may be vaguely against it, which is the only position because it's completely mad and completely unsafe for women.
Absolutely. Is there anything else on there? Ketamine use rises by more than 100%. I'm not sure why that is. I know that Elon Musk has said he uses ketamine.
That's probably it then.
Well done. Yeah.
It's just him on his own.
He's had a lot on lately. So he's had to massively increase his usage.
OK, well, let's move on to the Times Cressida with this Apple privacy row.
Apple and UK privacy row. Yeah, Apple. So the government have demanded for access. The government want to be able to have it so that Apple can see your photos, your secret stuff, and also the law enforcement, the police could as well if they needed to. And up until now, Apple have just not commented on this because the demand was made, I think, was it late last year, something like that? And they've said they're going ahead with it now, but they're very disappointed, of course. So they're not going to use this technology anymore, advanced data protection. And that meant that only you could see it. That won't be the case anymore. Apple did not comment at the time, but they've consistently opposed creating a backdoor. And they've said that if they did, it would only be a matter of time before bad actors found a way in, like the UK government, for example.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, I'd feel more relaxed about the UK government being able to look through my messages if people weren't getting prosecuted for completely reasonable opinions that aren't in any way hateful. Never mind all the hateful stuff that I say.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Okay,
you should be allowed to.
I would go further and say I would never want a government to have access. I just think it's just not appropriate.
Yeah,
and it's making us less attractive to America. America's security forces have come out and said, we don't want to get involved with the UK if all this stuff is leaky.
That's the incredible thing. It's wrong in itself. But to alienate the US at this time, saying that they might not share intelligence agreements with the UK unless it's withdrawn, it just makes you look so ridiculous. As this guy says here, Professor Alan Woodward at Surrey University, he just says it was naive of the UK government to think they could tell a US technology company what to do globally. It doesn't just make us look like total idiots.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And do you think, Vance and then Trump, when they meet Starmer, do you think they'll be able to strong arm him and project those US values of freedom and individual rights and privacy and stuff like that? Stuff that we used to have. I think Britain might have actually invented some of those values. Do you think he'll be able to project them onto Europe? Because a lot of the sort of hustling over Ukraine does seem to be around trying to get Britain and Europe to swing around to Western liberal values like America's.
Yes, well, that was Vance's speech, wasn't it? He was incredibly explicit about that. But he acknowledged in his CPAC follow-up speech that the US have been in that same position until very recently. So he says the main threat to Europe is the same threat to the US until 30 days ago, i.e. freedom, under Biden. So they're trying to get Europe to get on board. Europe's got to decide what to do. Are we going to get on board with MAGA or not? Are we just gonna panic and cry like that guy at the Munich security conference? Did you see that when he literally cried about Vance's speech? I wonder, can you convince Starmer? Can you imagine Trump and Vance just trying to convince Starmer to have freedom? Can you?
Well,
he's so stubborn and boring.
I think when he's in the room with them, it's easy to bully nerds, right? And I think it is. They'll all have all the flags and the cool stuff. They'll give him some aviators. He'll feel like he's one of the boys. I don't know. It could go either way.
Big heavy pat on the back that knocks him over. If they found a way to say it was in the law, he'd do it. I didn't realise it was a law. And then if they find a freedom law, he'll melt down and it'll change everything.
Yeah, I guess that's the only way you can deal with a bureaucrat is with bureaucracy. OK, let's have a look at some more front pages. The Daily Mail has Elton and Cowell back campaign to protect UK talent. The Eye has Russian links to drone sightings over secret UK bases. MPs call for investigation. And the Star has Poodles, an apology. I'm not sure what that's about, probably poodles. Let's start off with the Mail, Nick. They've got this story about AI stealing UK talent.
Yes, it's Elton and Cowell back campaign to protect UK talent. So basically this is copyright exemption, which we might be handing to big tech firms, which would allow them to just go crazy with AI, I'm paraphrasing. And they're worried that it would destroy our creative industries because it would just nick artist stuff, it's quite hard to tell the difference between Elton John and AI these days. There was that I'm Still Standing performance when he was outside in that garden. I can't remember what it was for, but it was barely coherent. And you think, was that AI? But obviously he's been a great artist. So this has been one of our strongest industries, the arts. Of course, it's all ruined now by wokeness and stuff. But I suppose music has been one of our greatest exports to the world, and we don't want to destroy it with AI.
And these are two big, important people with lots of sway.
But is it really...
No one knows what Cowell actually does, but go on.
Is it really stealing? Because, Oasis, nicked all the best bits from, the Beatles and T-Rex and people like that.
Well, that's a good point. Maybe what Cowell wants is for him to carry on being the stealer, not the AI.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole genre of music that just steals. It's called rap. They just call it a sample, and they just take all the great music.
Yeah.
It's not a bad genre.
Loop it round. And we've got this story here about Russian links to drone sightings over secret UK bases. I didn't even know we had these secret UK bases, Cressida.
Neither did I. I'm learning that right now. Russian links to drone sightings over secret... Well, we're going to have an investigation. The MPs have called for it, so that's something to look forward to. New evidence suggests suspected Russian state link to drone sighting. What does this mean?
So Russia's a country.
You've asked the right person, though. Leo's like the king of drones.
But, this is another example of how having completely open borders, where anybody can just get on a boat and come across to the UK, is going to backfire when it comes to security. Because now you've got, Russian, you're talking about bad actors and stuff. I'm not just talking about Emmerdale Farm. We've got, Russian state operatives in the UK flying drones over our secret military sites.
It hasn't been called Emmerdale Farm since about 1989. That's an incredibly old-school reference.
I think some people get the reference. OK, let's skip the star and we'll go to a break now. That's the front page is done for you, but come back to find out why a grooming gang got a soft touch, what happened to an NHS doctor who glorified Hamas, and is Scotland going to get its own version of Elon Musk's Doge? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
TikTok chefs, Instagram chefs, that they put children off or young people off of cooking because it's so expertly done they can't do it. No, my young lad, he's 17, he is amazing in the kitchen. Oh, he is. He's amazing in the kitchen. And he gets it all off TikTok. He comes down, he can put burgers, wraps, stews, curries, sauces, and the smells in the kitchen. I said, where'd you get these? Oh, just TikTok, I'm trying it out. And it's just amazing the things that he can conjure up. So for some people, it might be... it's an inspiration for him. So they're saying that it's intimidation. For my boy, it's an inspiration. They say it's entertainment. For my boy, it's an infomercial. I watch him doing his stuff. At that stage, I could do baked beans on toast and knock up a salad. That was it. But my boy can do all sorts of stuff.
It makes it accessible as well, doesn't it? Because lots of people say, like, you need an education to be in the kitchen, or you need to go find yourself loads of cookbooks. But you don't.
No.
You go on your phone now.
I mean, like, all the spices, sesame oil. I mean, I'm amazed at the stuff that he does. So it's encouraging. All you just need is a kitchen well-stocked and have a go. And understand that failure is actually the route to learning. I mean, he's made mistakes, he's stuck stuff in the bin, but that young man, I am amazed at some of the stuff he does.
I don't mind cooking at all. It's cleaning up that I have the problem with. Dawn, let's talk about sex.
Can I just say there are things called restaurants, by the way? Just put that one. My hell, I don't even know where the kitchen is.
OK.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Daily Mail kicking off this section, and it seems that the establishment are still treating Muslim child rape gangs with kid gloves, which the rape gangs probably like because they've got kid in the name, Cressida.
Judges to review pathetically short sentences handed to 3 members of a grooming gang which preyed on vulnerable underage girls for years. So these 3 members of a wicked, violent, sordid grooming gang are having their sentences looked at by the Court of Appeal. And this is because Robbie Moore, Conservative MP for Keighley and Ilkley, wrote to the Attorney General's office to complain and said these sentences are just not long enough. 2 of the 3 guys, so which are the brothers, Imitas Ahmed and Fayez Ahmed, they never went to prison because they disappeared. They went abroad. And Ibra Hussein...
Again, a porous border.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's amazing in itself, isn't it? This was in the 1990s, but it was a long time ago. So they were sentenced to 6.5 years, 9 years and 7.5 years, respectively. And it was so poor that this has been deemed weak enough to be challenged under the unduly lenient sentence scheme. And it's going to be looked at again.
Right. Well, at least it's getting looked at, and well done to Robbie Moore for raising this issue, which I'm sure is going to be unpopular with some constituents.
Yeah, I mean, for once we're actually hearing about a sentence being unduly lenient, which we never hear about. Think of the number of unduly lenient sentences we hear about. It's like every day ones that should qualify, but at least this has. And it's just... The grooming gangs, there's this story, but it's kind of faded again already, hasn't it? It became massive again. Elon Musk was sharing it. The world became aware of it. But the world we live in, things move on so fast. It's almost been forgotten about again.
Yeah.
Maybe people just have horror fatigue because the cases are so horrible. You almost don't want to think about it. But yeah, at least this is happening. But it's not enough, is it really? And this woman is in her 40s saying that if people had listened sooner, maybe her life could have been different. Such a tragic, horrible thing to think about.
Well, yeah, and the ages of the girls. I mean, this is this happened. The girl was raped when she was 13 or 14. I mean, this is a horrific. It's obviously going to, you know, absolutely change a life.
Well, it went on over 3 years.
Yeah.
This was 96 to 99. So it would have been, well...
Yeah.
That formative part of her life ruined.
And they got her hooked on drugs as well to, you know, obviously to corrupt her and abuse her.
And it became a coping mechanism for her.
Yeah.
There's a solution that doesn't involve any sentence, but we're not ready to bring that back just yet, apparently.
Well, if we brought medieval cultures into this country, perhaps we need to bring medieval punishments into this country as well. Perhaps the punishment should fit the crime in instances like this. We can't have a sort of modern, civilised, high-trust society and then just airdrop elements into it like this. These men are absolute barbarians, pre-medieval. I mean, this would appall... you know, the worst medieval criminal. So yeah, it's absolutely disgusting that it's happened, and it's disgusting that we're still not dealing with the issue.
Absolutely.
So yeah, moving on. We've got the Times now, and when the Tories were in power, an NHS doctor who glorified Hamas was due to be deported, but Labour are in power now, and they seem to kind of like that thing, Nick.
Yeah, it's a deportation order overturned for Egyptian doctor who glorified Hamas. And she was working at an NHS trust in Liverpool and tweeted just after October 7th, hours after the attacks, in fact, if it was your home, you would stay and fight. You wouldn't just run away. And she added a smiling emoji to the post. And another one, she said, there are no civilians in Israel. So, and we can't deport this person. So James cleverly tried to get her deported, but of course the ECHR struck again and said no. Now, whether this particular case warrants deportation or not, I just want to deport someone at this point. I mean, every time we do a story, it's like we couldn't deport them.
Well, I think
let's deport Lewis or someone. Gone.
It does, because she was on a temporary visa. So this isn't a free speech. If she were British, I might say, well, do you know what? I hate her comments, but it's a free speech issue, and I defend her to make them, and I don't think you should go to prison for what you put on social media. And broadly, that's my view. But she's not British. She was on a temporary visa. So I think James cleverly had it exactly right.
Yeah, so just don't renew the visa. And also, I mean, can we trust NHS doctors? If we've got NHS doctors who've been brought in who have these values, I mean, imagine a Jewish person getting treated by this neurologist. How are you going to be able to trust that they're going to do the right thing?
No, you're not. And also, note the desperation to stay in this country. Her legal team have argued, you know, this breached her rights of freedom and expression and a family life and so on. People are desperate to stay in this country but not follow any of the values of the country. That's what I find so baffling all the time. It's like they hate the country, they behave in ways that we don't behave as British people. And then it's like, oh, but you're desperate to stay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we have had some people posting things, British people, that people didn't like. But I'm saying just treat those two things equally.
Well, that's very different. That's very different to sort of praising terrorism hours after an attack. We've had people doing the opposite, saying, what about these attacks happening to us? That's a very different thing. It's a social media post, but the motivation is so different.
But if this had been posted by a British person in the aftermath of the Southport killings, that person would be doing 36 months in jail.
Of course.
Right now.
And that's what's interesting. You think, OK, we know there's anti-white hatred, but there seems to be some support, at least for Jewish people in this country. But this shows that there isn't even that when it comes to the ECHR, which just won't do anything.
Yeah, or our interpretation of the ECHR. We've got the Telegraph now, and last week's advice that coffee is healthy is now overturned. This week it's bad for you, Nick.
Yeah, it's coffee is dangerous for you, warns EU. Oh, thanks, EU. So it's caffeine's bad for you, but only if swallowed. So don't worry, guys, just rub it on your body. I'm so glad Lewis isn't here for that story. It is fair. But anyway, yeah, it says that a coffee could cause adverse effects on the heart, hydration, body temperature, as well as triggering anxiety and sleep problems. I mean, all true. I can't really argue with that.
That's why I drink it.
We should obviously ban it. And people are saying, well, this will lead to them only being able to drink decaffeinated coffee. Of course it will, because that is the logic of safetyism. This is this mentality, isn't it, where you say, well, why have any of these things? Weirdly, I hate coffee and agree with it, but I hate the EU, so I can't...
Why do you hate coffee?
It's awful.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's nice, it wakes you up. It's good, but this is using it as a pesticide, so I suppose, I mean, it's going to be in large quantities, because I know that caffeine can be very deadly if you ingest the, actual powdered caffeine.
Apparently they're going to use it on snails.
Right, it's deadly for snails. That's why you never get snails in your coffee. Have you ever seen a slug in your coffee?
Well, it made them a lot quicker, wouldn't it? I mean, this is, I don't know. It feels like we're not trusted to make our own decisions.
Or our own coffee.
No, exactly. Madness. But as you say, it might be that we haven't got the details about the quantities here.
Yeah.
Maybe a cup of coffee is still all right.
Maybe they should have started with the quantities.
I don't know, because they tried to ban the Danish pastry because it had too much of a coumarin, a compound in cinnamon that's toxic in high doses.
Cinnamon?
So then it had to change it to be classed as a traditional food, and now you're back on the left again with, like, I don't know, I guess you're protected. Actually, why would they protect traditional Danish food? That's the kind of thing they'd hate, isn't it? Yeah. They got away with it with a loophole, so there needs to be a loophole for coffee.
Meanwhile, the content of the Danish hasn't changed at all. It wasn't hurting people before, and it's not hurting
I know, bring back our light bulbs, our pastries, and our coffee, even though I hate it.
And our bendy bananas. Well, that's it for this section. We've got lots of great stories to come. We've got the transgender Muslim drag queen helping asylum seekers prove that they're gay. No photos, I hope. And how the government removed privacy from Apple users. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Mirror now with a Scottish politician saying he's going to cut waste just like Elon Musk is. Unfortunately, he's from Labour, so I don't believe him, Cressida.
So cynical. I'll set up a Scottish version of Elon Musk's Doge unit, vows Labour boss. He's vowed it, Leo. So this is Anna Sanwar, and he's looked at Elon Musk and thought, I'll have some of that, and he's now making these promises. But, you know, you keep hearing this thing at the moment about what are they called, cargo cults, the people making wooden planes and getting disappointed that they won't fly. This is what this reminds me of, a Labour person saying, we're going to have a Doge. It's like, are you though, or are you just saying all the things?
I mean, Scotland desperately needs a Doge.
Oh, yeah, of course. But this is Anas Sarwar. Remember, he did an anti-white speech that's almost as bad as Humza Yousaf's anti-white speech. Yeah, he does the whole thing. He goes, Department of the blah, 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 white, every head teacher, white. And I'm like, oh, so you hate white people as well? And that was satirical content in case he wants to sue me. It's just a joke. But he seemed to hate
you
them.
You could hate white people and be tight.
Yes, but my point is, I'm about to get to the point. Don't worry, I'm like Lewis Schaefer. I'll get there. My point is, Doge is all about efficiency, and he clearly has a DEI mentality, hence his anti-white speech. That's really about DEI. So that's opposite of efficiency. So can you trust a leftist, is my point, to run a department of efficiency? No, is the answer.
Well, exactly, because if you're going to, like, Doge is all about meritocracy and, you know, getting the right person for the job. But if you're excluding 97% of the population because they're white, then you're not going to get the best person, unless they happen to be in that 3%, which is possible, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't believe it either.
Well, moving on, we've got the Telegraph now with a trans Muslim drag queen helping asylum seekers prove that they're gay. This is one of your Pornhub searches, but it's also a news story, Nick.
That wasn't even in the autocue. That's an ad-lib from Leo. That's why he doesn't ad-lib, folks. So the Muslim drag queen helping asylum seekers prove they are gay. This is Asifa Lahore.
No need for that language, Nick.
Isn't that in Pakistan? Anyway,
yes.
See, I know about stuff.
Like Ollie London.
It's Britain's first out Muslim drag queen. Now, are there a lot of in ones? I doubt there's that many of them.
Subtle drag makeup.
It's the first out one, right, who describes themselves as a well-known LGBT person, fully self-employed, as Britain's first out Muslim drag queen. Yeah, I didn't think it was a job. I thought you would be self-employed. Like, there's not many people looking for that as employers. So there's a few of my criticisms. Anyway, what this person does is go around giving evidence that gets off asylum seekers who have said they're gay. And as the Telegraph says, sceptics believe some asylum seekers may be gaming the system by pretending to be homosexual. For example, one was married to a woman. So, yes, and this person says, well, I think they're gay because I saw them down the gay club and they use queer language or something. And then the judge goes, well, are they?
Yeah, and this person has said this about 12 different asylum seekers. She's got a very wide friendship network that seems to consist entirely of asylum seekers who are trying to get their application approved.
I think her first one was real, and then maybe she just got a bit sloppy with the work. Because in the first example, she talks about meeting this person in a gay circle and referring to the language they use, queer terminology, including top, bottom, and verse. What does that mean? Versatile? I don't know.
I say all the terms.
and then talks about him flirting in clubs with other men. There's a lot of people on this show who've been calling for this as a test for whether or not somebody's gay. Do they go out and do gay things?
Yeah.
Who said that?
I feel like I've heard it on this show quite... Right. Go on, then prove it. Maybe in a Scottish accent. I'm not sure, but the point is...
In fact, I think we should get my mate who's called 18-inch Leroy, and we should get him to help with this test.
But you are right. Towards the end, some of the examples are a bit like, well, I've heard of them, so it must be true.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and we've got an activist judiciary that's helping people game the system, as far as I can see from this. And we see people pretending to be gay, pretending to be Christian, pretending to be whatever else it is, so they don't get sent back. There was even one who didn't get sent back because she signed up to join a terrorist group in Nigeria. And then so the judge was like, oh, we can't send her back. She's a terrorist now, so they'll persecute her. It's like, she's a terrorist. You're supposed to persecute terrorists. Yeah. That's an appropriate person to persecute.
Yeah.
And you know, I think some of these people we saw with the acid attacker, well, it was an alkali attacker if we've got any chemistry professors watching, but the alkali attacker who, you know, horrifically maimed a woman and then jumped in the river and died, he'd said he was Christian, and yet when he died, he had a Muslim burial. So obviously, you know, I'm not sure he was telling the truth about being Christian if his friends and family said no, he would have wanted a Muslim burial.
Well, if you look at our system, the safest way to make sure you don't get deported is be an anti-Semitic terrorist paedophile. There's no chance you'll go back. These are just the stories we've been covering. That's just a fact.
OK, moving on, we've got the Times now. Oh, no, we've covered that story. We've got the Guardian now, and working-class creatives don't stand a chance, apparently. Well, at the Guardian, maybe. This panel is at least two-thirds working-class scumbags, Nick.
Yeah, it's working-class creatives don't stand a chance in UK today, leading artists warn. Of course, it's always been like this. It's about a third of artistic directors are privately educated compared to the national average of 7%. Loads of examples like this. People like Shane Meadows are calling it out, the director. And, of course, what happens is now, I mean, they're talking about lack of access to the arts for working class. The other thing is you have to be woke left now as well.
Yeah.
And the way they always get around it is you find, so they find the poshest non-white person. They go, look how diverse we are. It's like you don't have any working class people. And this has been the case in the arts for so long.
Yeah, like
we all
Nish
know
Kumar,
about
you shut your eyes and you could just be listening to another Oxbridge elite.
I know, like, look at all these people. It's like, yes, they went to prep school in Oxford. I know. So this is the thing. And you think, like, comedy would be one place, but now that's been taken over by wokeness. It's been taken over. We had the grammar schools, which was genuine social mobility, and that was destroyed by the left. So that went. So there's no way to get anywhere as a working-class person. You can get on GB News. Of course, that's about it. But it's like, obviously, that's the pinnacle. But comedy, you know, you thought maybe that's an area because it's based on working men's clubs. But then you also have that Oxbridge satirical tradition, and that kind of ends up taking over with the things like the Edinburgh Festival becomes so important.
Yeah.
But they come from a very different tradition, and they look down upon club comedy. So that's just one example. But obviously,
and the BBC gatekeepers that, you know, traditionally, you know, a route onto television would be doing BBC shows, and you know, that's not going to happen with, you know, posh kids at the BBC deciding who gets on. I mean, as a posh kid, how do you feel about it, Cressida? Are you sad to see this tradition go?
Anything.
Cressida's background is like building and stuff. She's just got a posh name.
Look, that's all cultural stuff, and fair enough, but there's no money, and this is why we need more money, because in a proper rich society, there would be a few spare quid to invest in... you know, Stuart Lee's talked about this stuff in the past. He said under Margaret Thatcher there were grants available to him that wouldn't be now.
We don't need state spending. That's not how we fix this.
But that's what they're talking about in this article, and I'm just saying to these particular people, well, perhaps if we lived in a society that had less tax and more prosperity, you might have a bit more money for your, you know... theatre project.
And maybe if we just slightly closed the borders just a little bit, maybe just at a small length of fence just along part of it, then we wouldn't be competing with the entire world for housing. And we wouldn't also be competing with the entire world for jobs, which pushes down wages. So young people have to pay all their money to live somewhere and don't earn enough money to have any hobbies.
That's part of it. But isn't this panel all state school? I think it's an achievement for GB News. I think this is why they hate GB News. The real reason. It's a class war.
OK, well, we've got the Sun now, and if you want to kill someone and be deified for it, then Luigi Mangione knows how to do it, Cressida.
Oh, my God. Luigi Mangione, Jesus mural, seen at courthouse as sick fans call CEO assassin a bright light and camp out for hearing. They've camped outside like he's a rock star. And, I mean, I don't know who's more offended, people that are just good human beings or Christians, because it's just, this is not OK. These people are so detached from reality. This man... Can we say he hasn't been convicted yet? So, but we're relatively confident. These people, anyway, his fans, think he murdered Brian Thompson.
Yeah.
That's why they like him.
Yeah.
Which is just appalling. I mean, he's a murderer, isn't he? And he's made a statement. It's so tiresome. I don't even know if I should give this man a voice, as they say. But he says he's overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone has written. He should be. He shouldn't. Nobody should be writing to him in support. But people are holding him up as this kind of, well, a bright light because he, in their eyes, got back at the man, the system. It's so lame.
Yeah, and his legal defence fund has garnered over $500,000 in donations, and it's kind of disgusting that, you know, people say, oh well, the healthcare industry, you know, makes a profit off people suffering and stuff. It's like, yeah, but somebody's got to provide the stuff. I mean, the NHS provides the service, the healthcare service, in return for money. And if you want to look at people making profits, like the average margin in the healthcare industry is like 8%. Which sounds like a decent margin. I'm sure it works out fine for them. But if you look at a company like Apple, their margin's like 25, 30%. So, you know, why isn't Luigi Mangione gunning down tech executives for making a profit? They're just doing the same thing, providing a service in return for
Don't
money.
give them ideas. That might be next week's news.
It's very similar to George Floyd. They're deifying this person. It shows the absolute depravity of our culture and the lack of any true religion. You know, instead of following Jesus, you follow criminals, basically. It's disgusting. This guy's nothing like Jesus. And he's more like Che Guevara, you know, sort of doesn't care about the individual human life, just a sort of lefty kind of popular figure. And also, this CEO was someone who had more of a humble background and had come up himself, versus this Luigi character who comes from a more privileged background. So classic lefty in that way as well. I hate the whole thing. It's mental.
What's weird is he was popular and a football player at school, and apparently he's good looking. I don't think he is, but that's commonly said.
You know why that is? That's because you found out he's only 5'7". And he looks taller in the pictures. Oh my God! Because you still got that picture of Ted Bundy on the wall, don't you?
No, because there's one woman that doesn't like serial killers. Apparently, what is it with this women and serial killers thing?
Either way, I might like a serial killer. I haven't met the right one
just
yet.
not this one.
Okay,
he's not serial. He's not serial anyway.
OK, well, we've got the final section to go with Elon Musk's baby mama drama, why drug dealers are punting Ozempic, and finally, we're going to have robots at home. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Storm Coral will be affecting eastern parts of the Mediterranean, bringing in a cold plume, so below average temperatures. These are set to affect Athens, parts of Santorini, so feeling cold here. But as we move our way further west, milder, yes, but some unsettled weather on the cards. Some rain affecting Nice, Barcelona, also parts of Portugal. But Madeira and Tenerife staying largely dry, and that remains the way into next week. Also the best of the temperatures, and temperatures improving across Santorini. All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead to the weekend, and Saturday's going to be the driest, brightest day for many before some heavy rain and strong winds arrive on Sunday. But before all this, well, we have had a couple of frontal systems push through today. Most of the rain associated with that is now clearing away, but in the southeast, a frontal wave means we're going to see more heavy, at times persistent rain as we go through overnight and into tomorrow. Elsewhere, it's a drier story. Some showers though towards the northwest of the UK. Some clear skies here, elsewhere quite cloudy at times, and with that, temperatures not dropping a huge amount, perhaps a little bit lower than some recent nights, but most places holding up in mid to high single figures. So not an especially chilly start to the day tomorrow, but it is going to be quite a wet one, particularly across parts of East Anglia and Kent. Otherwise largely dry across much of England and Wales, though fairly cloudy. A greater chance of some sunshine early on across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, but western areas will have a scattering of showers, and some of these could be a little bit on the heavy side, particularly as we go into the afternoon. I am expecting a few more showers to develop. Now, through much of the morning across England and Wales, away from the southeast, it is going to be generally dry, but a few more showers across parts of Wales, southwest England are likely to pep up as we go into the afternoon, and there's a good chance that some of these could be quite heavy and spread a bit further eastwards, whilst the rain in the southeast clears away. Temperatures down a degree or so compared to today, but with some brighter skies, lighter winds, if anything, it'll feel a bit more pleasant. Not so pleasant on Sunday. We have some heavy rain and strong winds pushing in from the west. Rainfall totals could really build up, particularly across parts of South Wales. Do stay up to date with our warnings, as there's a chance that we may need to escalate them in some places. And we have strong winds with coastal gales, perhaps gusts in excess of 60 to 70 miles per hour for some. So a really unsettled day ahead. Bye-bye.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth,
it's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Independent now, and when Elon Musk bought Twitter, I wonder if he imagined it being used by his baby mamas to broadcast his baby dramas, Cressida.
He didn't think it through. Grimes calls on Elon Musk to urgently respond over child's medical crisis. I love this so much. This is like when I used to work in pubs when I was 18 and people would ring up, is my wife, is my husband there? And you'd call it out in the pub. She's done that to him. She's done, well, if you're not going to pick up your phone. So apparently the kid's ill and she's gone online and said, if you don't want to talk to me, can you please designate or hire someone who can so that we can move forward on solving this? This is urgent, Elon.
And this is the kid that was with Elon Musk and on his shoulders when he was in the Oval Office giving a speech, I think.
Okay. I don't know, there's over a dozen children.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep up. But what's he playing at?
Well, yeah, maybe she saw Ashley St. Clair do a similar thing. She had to do that publicly, didn't she? Maybe she thought, oh, does that work? So I'll try it. Because obviously he's got far too many children, he's got far too many girlfriends, whatever they are, and he just can't keep in touch. It's logistically impossible, so they have to contact him through X, because that's where he spends all his time. That makes some kind of sense. He's obviously... Yeah, but it is a bit weird. I mean, is he not picking up some of these texts about his many, many kids? He's got to hire someone to at least do that admin.
Yeah,
I guess he's a busy man. He's running America, he's running all these companies that are the biggest companies in America, so, yeah, I mean, you can't expect a man like that to actually deal with his family.
He's supposed to be like he gets the kids out when it suits him, doesn't he? Mr. Family Guy, and then not so much when he's suddenly got a new chainsaw to play with and he doesn't want to hang out with his own kids.
Gifted to him by Javier Milei. He's a great man. We've got the Telegraph now, and apparently we're 5 years away from a robot that will make women obsolete, Nick.
Outrageous. I just want to condemn what you just said. If you clip this up, everyone, on Twitter, I condemned it. Hope not hate.
I wrote,
or whoever they are now.
Never have a wife.
I'm the most supportive of women here. Robots that cook and fold laundry, 5 years away. So,
Nick, what are you going to do till then?
Well, I'm actually the only one that manages to. Hang on, I live on my own and manage everything really well. You're the one that says you don't even bother with your kid; you just leave it to your wife. So hang on.
I raise my child.
You think
you say it's easy if you leave most of it to your wife.
Yeah, the worky bits, not the actual playing with the kids stuff.
No, but you're trying to attack me about this. Anyway, whatever. It says robots that cook, fold laundry and unload the dishwasher.
That was like a spat between Elon Musk and one of his baby mamas.
It says robots that cook, fold laundry and unload the dishwasher could be in homes in 5 years. Now, hopefully that means you've let them in the home, because they're just getting in. That's the real worry to me. They're getting into our homes.
That's what you took away from it.
And it says they're much like lefties because they have lightweight brains, but it means lightweight AI brains. So actually, that's impressive. So they've got a worm's brain, Cressida. You know, like some of the people we work with, they've got a worm's brain.
This whole thing is just an opportunity for digs at men and women, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can make jokes about each other.
It is, but it sort of worries me that, obviously Keir Starmer will have a back door to this robot, and, while I'm bent over getting a beer, it might stick its finger up my bum or something. I mean, I don't really want... If the government's got control over our phones, I don't want the government having control over the robots in our homes as well.
That was a very specific example you gave. I was thinking maybe it will have some listening capabilities.
Yeah.
You were more specific.
Yeah, it could listen as well, but this thing's got hands.
I was thinking about Keir Starmer getting an argument with a robot and you can't tell which is which. But it says apparently the end goal is they'll have them in the care homes and stuff, and they'll probably care about you more than someone who just arrived in the country.
Care about you more than the government as well.
It's the death of love. No, they could be more loving than many care home people.
That's terrible that we would think a robot would be better than a human being.
That's where we are. Yeah. Wake up. Smell the EU coffee.
We've got the Times now. And drug dealers are selling Ozempic as well as cocaine. I guess they both make you not want to eat. Cressida.
That's right. Drug dealers selling Ozempic alongside cocaine and ketamine. So this is like the privatisation of the NHS happening because it's just not good enough. So you can get your weekend party drugs and the other stuff you need as well, which makes sense, doesn't it? Because Ozempic is in demand and these drug dealers are very competitive. Apparently they're doing it for 170 quid. I think on the NHS it's between 150 and 200 and something.
So it could be cheaper to just get it off a guy in a tinted window Mercedes.
Well, now I'm saying that out loud. I don't know. The NHS probably give it to some people for free, don't they? But they don't have enough of it.
Right, yeah.
So if you're buying it privately, these guys are beating the market rate.
Yeah, I've always thought it's a bit dangerous, Ozempic, but I suppose if you're already doing hard drugs, you're perhaps past worrying about such things.
Yeah. I guess so. And to be honest, yeah, the stuff that I've heard about Ozempic, it's not going to be any worse for you than other things. Well, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. The Guardian has Starmer seeks to calm Europe's row with Trump. Calm down, this is far-right fuckery. The Telegraph has Prime Minister to defy Trump with new aid for Ukraine. The Times has Apple in UK privacy row. The Mail has Elton and Cowell back campaign to protect UK talent. The Eye has Russian links to drone sightings over secret UK bases. MPs call for investigation. And the Star has Poodles, an apology. And that's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests Cressida and Nick. I'll be here tomorrow night at 11 p.m. with Nick and Lewis Schaefer. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then stay tuned for breakfast and I hope to see you tomorrow night. Cheerio, have a good one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead to the weekend, and Saturday's going to be the driest, brightest day for many before some heavy rain and strong winds arrive on Sunday. But before all this, well, we have had a couple of frontal systems push through today. Most of the rain associated with that is now clearing away, but in the southeast, a frontal wave means we're going to see more heavy, at times persistent rain as we go through overnight and into tomorrow. Elsewhere, it's a drier story. Some showers though towards the northwest of the UK. Some clear skies here, elsewhere quite cloudy at times, and with that temperatures not dropping a huge amount, perhaps a little bit lower than some recent nights, but most places holding up in mid to high single figures. So not an especially chilly start to the day tomorrow, but it is going to be quite a wet one, particularly across parts of East Anglia and Kent. Otherwise largely dry across much of England and Wales, though fairly cloudy. A greater chance of some sunshine early on across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, but western areas will have a scattering of showers, and some of these could be a little bit on the heavy side, particularly as we go into the afternoon. I am expecting a few more showers to develop. Now, through much of the morning across England and Wales, away from the southeast, it is going to be generally dry, but a few more showers across parts of Wales, southwest England are likely to pep up as we go into the afternoon, and there's a good chance that some of these could be quite heavy and spread a bit further eastwards, whilst the rain in the southeast clears away. Temperatures down a degree or so compared to today, but with some brighter skies, lighter winds, if anything, it'll feel a bit more pleasant. Not so pleasant on Sunday. We have some heavy rain and strong winds pushing in from the west. Rainfall totals could really build up, particularly across parts of South Wales. Do stay up to date with our warnings, as there's a chance that we may need to escalate them in some places. And we have strong winds with coastal gales, perhaps gusts in excess of 60 to 70 miles per hour for some. So a really unsettled day ahead. Bye-bye.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232.